Hello, I'm another Beatles fan, and you know what? Watching Morgan Neville's Man on the Run documentary, of course, on Paul McCartney and Wings, really made me go back to a certain Wings mania. It's different, just listening to some random songs on Spotify by Wings, which I do daily, but something else is really thinking about the band a lot and listening to the whole albums, maybe putting on some vinyl, reading a ton of info about the band. So I'm kind of in that mood again after the documentary. So, you know what? YouTubers do this all the time. It's an easy win for YouTube to create a worst to best list, and I wanted to do that today with Wings. Before I start though, I want to set up some ground rules. Number one, this is my opinion only. Number two, I don't think there's a bad Wings album. I think the worst Wings album I've selected here is at least, I think it's a 7 out of 10 for me, or maybe a 6.5 out of 10 for me if I would score it. I don't score the records, but it would be something along those lines. And last but not least, this is comprising of the studio albums and 2 live albums. There's no compilations, and there isn't also the Wings Over Europe album, simply because that was a record that only came out with the joint box set of Wildlife and Red Rose Speedway. So I wouldn't consider that a true Wings album, even though it is. And it's also not on streaming services, so I'm not including that one, especially because I don't have it on vinyl also. Alright, let's go. So, to me, the worst Wings album is this one, the last one. It's called Back to the Egg. And it's not a bad album, again. So it had the Wings Mark IV, Mark III, I'd say. Mark III, right? With Lawrence Juber and Steve Holley. And again, it's not a bad one. It's raining, so I'm sorry about that. But it's got 2 of the best albums in Paul McCartney's discography, I think, which is Arrow Through Me and Baby's Request. And that's why I think, they're 2 of my favorite ones. That's why I almost swapped them with the second to last one here. Maybe I'll swap it right now, will I? I'm not sure. They're kind of interchangeable for me at the bottom. Again, I love them both. I just don't think they're the best ones. Second to last is London Town. So I'm gonna kind of put these 2 on a standstill here. Again, Back to the Egg has Arrow Through Me and Baby's Request, which I love. It also has some great B-sides, like Winter Rose and Love Awake and After the Ball and a Million Miles. They're both medleys. I love those 2. It is Paul McCartney's most rocking album from the 70s, definitely. So it has a ton of rockers, and there's also the Rockestra, or the Rockestra, not sure how you would pronounce that, which is not even on the documentary, so I don't get why it wasn't. People have speculated that it's one of the reasons why we've never seen an archive collection to Back to the Egg. It's because of rights regarding the musicians that played on it, like John Bonham and the guitarist from The Who, Pete Townsend, and there's tons of other musicians, right? But I just think the Rockestra is a good idea that turned out really boring and forgettable. I don't like the songs they play. And the rockers, like Getting Closer, Spit It On, Again and Again and Again. This is a Danny Lane one. Old Siamster is the best one out of them, but all in all, they're quite forgettable. So that's why I put it down here. Next, again, I've already mentioned this one, London Town. This is from an era where Wings had just come out of the Wings Over America tour, and then Joe English and Ginny McCulloch left. And so I think Ginny plays on some of these. I'm not 100% sure. But it's just Paul, Linda, and Danny again, of course, the power trio, right? And I like the album artwork. I do love it. This, the back part, I don't quite care for it, but this is such a vibe. And there's pretty great songs in here. I love With a Little Luck. I love Deliver Your Children. It's one by Danny. I love Don't Let It Bring You Down. I love Girlfriend, which Paul wrote for Michael Jackson. I love Backwards Traveler. It's a quick one, but I do love it. London Town itself is not that bad. I'm Carrying It's so beautiful. So, there's plenty of great stuff in here. And in my opinion, it's less forgettable than Back to the Egg, even though its highs aren't as high as Back to the Eggs are with Arrow Through Me and Baby's Request. Alright, now let's go back in time to 1971 and Wings' first album. And this cover is so gorgeous, in person. It's Wildlife. And this was Wings Mark 1, so it has Danny Seiel, and actually that's it, right? There's no Henry McCulloch in here yet. Wow, that's true. I don't know if I've ever noticed that. I love this drawing. I think it's by Paul himself. But this one is the beginning of Wings. It has a homemade feel to it. I know that some songs are one-take wonders, I'm pretty sure, and it sounds more in style with that early 70s Paul idea of, the home life, the kids, the farm, Root Studio. It does really remind me of this, so that's why I love its vibe. And it's quite a short album. It's got 4 songs on each side, and most of them are bangers. Mumbo is okay, Bebop is okay too also. Love is Strange, I quite like that one. Wildlife is great, but this isn't, the best version of Wildlife isn't here. It's on another album I'm gonna get into. Some People Never Know, absolutely love that one. I Am Your Singer, so cute. Tomorrow is a banger, definite banger. A real underrated song by Paul. And Dear Friend is a song that Paul wrote for John. So I just think this, to me, ranks better than this, London Town. Even though I think maybe London Town songs are strongest in general. I'm not sure if I really think that, if I really believe that. But it just has that early 70s Paul vibe, which is immaculate, right? I love it. Alright, next one is the follow-up to Wildlife, Railroad Speedway. And this is the backside of the record. It's kind of it's a Beetle, isn't it? No, it's not. I don't know what that is. I honestly have no idea what that is. Red Rose Speedway has a ton of great songs in it. There's no track listing, so I won't be able to check it. But there's, of course, My Love, which is its greatest single, its greatest hit. There's also Big Barn Bed. There's When the Night. There's the medley, of course. The medley is great. I quite enjoy it. There's also I keep forgetting it. I forgot what song I would mention. Is one I really enjoy out of here. But, this is an improvement over Wings Wildlife. It's a different feel, totally different feel from Wildlife. But all in all, this is way more remarkable than the other albums so far, I think. I know people who love this and they aren't even huge Wings and Beatles fans, but I think it's maybe a bit underappreciated. I hate its cover art though. I don't think it looks good. Maybe hate is is a strong word for it, but I don't like it. And finally, this was supposed to be a double album, and it was not. And I think, they've re-released it as a double album. I want to get that on vinyl eventually, and I think it's better than the final cut because it has better songs that were cut out, like Tragedy. I think that's a cover, and Denny sings it along with Paul. It's great. There's also some live stuff that were cut, like Best Friend, Live at the Hague, and stuff like that, which rock. I remember what song I was getting into. It was Single Pigeon. That's a McCartney bop. Anyway, Red Rose Speedway, I would recommend. Now these, from this point onward, the albums, they are great. I would definitely recommend checking them out. From Red Rose Speedway, Wildlife, London Town, and Back to the Egg, I think they're really good. But from now on, I think Paul steps up. And he steps up with Wings at the Speed of Sound. Of course, this was Wings at the height of their career. Wings Mark II, of course, at the height of their powers, right? They'd already played Wings over Australia and I think Europe too. So this was the album that came along with the Wings Over America tour. And I love that this is an actual photo. It's not like a montage of sorts. This was done on those cinema things, the cinema. I don't know what they're called. Anyway, considering that this is the big album before the big US tour, it's kind of underwhelming. It has incredible singles like Let 'Em In, Beware My Love. I don't even think that's a single, but that's a great one. Silly love songs, of course. It's silly love songs. We all love it. And it does include some great B-sides also, like The Note You Never Wrote. I just think it's gorgeous. She's My Baby. I think Paul himself loves that one. I know that he arranged a string quartet or an orchestra version for Linda's funeral. So that's beautiful. Also, Wino Junko. I love this song by Jimmy McCulloch. I'm a huge fan of Jimmy's. I think he's so incredible. And this is a great song. There's also Time to Hide. Again, this is another instance where Time to Hide doesn't include its best version in here. It's on another record I'm getting into. But there's some... Warm and Beautiful also is a great McCartney classic, a great closure to the record. There are some songs which kind of miss the mark for me. Saint Ferrien, which is kind of a word play with Saint-Ferrien, I think, right? That's French for something. I kind of like it. It's kind of cute, but I don't quite care for it. Must Do Something About It, kind of the same thing. And Cook of the House just sounds bad, I think. It's not Linda's best vocal, and it's definitely the worst song on the record. It's maybe Wings' worst song out of them all, maybe. So that's a shame. That shouldn't be included. Maybe, why not put Seaside Woman? Even though it's a totally different vibe to the record, so maybe you shouldn't do that, actually. Or maybe there's one song which is also from the same period as Seaside Woman, which is the Red Rose Speedway period, which is... I forgot what it's called. Something Fish. I can't recall. I gotta be honest, I don't remember. The Midnight Fish. I think it's the Midnight Fish. Anyway, that's a great song also. That fits the vibe. Why not put that one in? Anyway, tell me if you're a fan of Cook of the House. I'm not, as you can see. Alright, this is the next one, Venus and Mars. I love this one. I am obsessed with Venus and Mars. I love its artwork. It's so stylish. Look at that. These in these drawings here, these patterns, they're so beautiful, and of course it has that spacey thing to it. I love this photo. Come on, this is gorgeous. It has this space kind of theme to it. Of course, it's called Venus and Mars, but it's also it was also recorded at the time they went to Nashville. I'm sorry, not Nashville, New Orleans, and you know, Paul's just popping in here. This is serious. This is serious stuff, you know. And I would totally recommend it. I do think it's Wings' most underrated record. If you haven't given a listen, please do. Of course, it opens up with Venus and Mars / Rock Show. It's a great opener to the live shows. And I gotta be honest, I wish Paul opened the new gigs with this one still. They also do Venus and Mars / Rock Show / Jet. I do love this melody also. Then Love in Song, it's a good one. Maybe not the best in the album. You Gave Me the Answer is a pastiche of sorts of 30s, like a Honey Pie style song, which I know some people, I mean, it's not extremely replayable, but I like it. It gives the album a certain vibe. Magneto Entertainment Man is so great. This is a great song. Letting Go also, I think it's Wings' most underrated songs, along with Arrow Through Me, one of my favorite Paul McCartney songs ever. There's of course B-side Venus and Mars Reprise, also a vibe. Spirits of Ancient Egypt, I think that's a pretty fun one. Medicine Jar is even better than Wine O Junko, and I think Wine O Junko is great. Call Me Back Again, classic McCartney, great vocals. Listen to What the Man Said, classic McCartney again. Love that one. Of course, this was Listen to What the Man Said was its main single. And last song is Treat Her Gently / Lonely Old People. This is a great closer. It's another Paul McCartney underrated track. And if I were to say one bad thing about this album, of course it has kind of its ups and downs. Not all songs are 10 out of 10s, but I just think it doesn't sound that good. It's not, I don't know what it is about its mixing. I'm not sure. It was recorded at Seaside in New Orleans and Wally Harder, LA, The Pit. So maybe it's that it wasn't recorded in Abbey Road. I'm not sure. I just don't think it sounds that good. Maybe a remix would breathe more life into it. Wings at the Speed of Sound sounds way better in my book. But Venus and Mars, what a great record. And I'm gonna drink some water. Excuse me for a moment. I've been talking for 20 minutes. Alright, this is the top 3. And if you know Wings, you may know what the top 3 really brings us. If not, maybe you're like, hold on, there's an extra one there. I'm not getting, what is it? Well, it's an album, a Wings album, that came out in 2024. Of course, it's one hand clapping. This is serious business. This is serious stuff. Don't sleep on this. Please, don't sleep on this. This was Wings Mark 1's, I'm sorry, this was Wings Mark 1.5. We already had Jimmy McCulloch, but we have Jeff Britton, which, just a side note, I actually met Jeff Britton on the last Beatle Week. It was the first time he attended, and he was such a great guy. He was a great guy, and he plays so well in here. So, One Hand Clapping is a live album recorded in Abbey Road Studios. Even though it's recorded there, it's a live album, and the sound is so superb. It's superb, it's incredible. They aren't as well rehearsed, you can notice that, but that just adds to the charm of the project. And the soundtrack, the song track in here, it is just great. There's, of course, all the classics you want. There's Jet, there's My Love, there's Ben on the Run, but there's also a moment where Paul plays solo piano with Let's Love and All of You, and I'll Give You a Ring. Incredible. There's Wildlife. This is the best version of Wildlife in my book. There's Go Now, a great version of Go Now. There's Tomorrow, again a sleeper hit from Wildlife. There's Sally G, which was a single but sounds great in here, and they're just rocking. It's such raw energy, and of course Paul's bass playing is on a league of its own here. Also Paul's vocals are incredible. So again, don't sleep on this. One Hand Clapping is incredible. It was I think this is the best re-release of all time on all of these Beatle projects. It's so great, and I went to New York right after this came out, and I just had to get it on vinyl. I couldn't pass on it because I absolutely adore this one, and this was extremely close to being number 2. It wasn't though, because number 2 is Wings Over America. Of course it is. I mean, this is another live album. It's Wings live from again, they were at the height of their powers in here with Wings Mark II, which is the best Wings iteration. It's a 3 LP record, and there's if you haven't listened to this and you're a Paul McCartney fan or a Beatles fan, come on, just give it a go. It's incredible. It's great. Plenty of versions in here I actually prefer to the originals, or at least they're on the same level. But I really didn't know if I would rather put this or the new One Hand Clapping into number 2. I just put this because it is, in my book, a incredible also piece of history. It's Paul McCartney, the essential live Paul McCartney recordings in the 70s. But there's also the fact that there's been a ton of overdubs, I think, on this one. More than enough of overdubs. So this isn't 100% live. This has more of a live charm to it. As I mentioned, the group doesn't seem so rehearsed, and sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Jimmy McCulloch doesn't quite hit the solo on My Love on this one, and this just sounds immaculate. It does. It sounds immaculate. There's plenty of great B-sides in here too, which I love. I don't mean to listen to only the incredibly famous A-sides. So we have Spirits of Ancient Egypt in here. We have Medicine Jar again. We have Richard Cory, which is a Simon and Garfunkel cover I love, sung by Denny. We have Magneto Entertainment Man, great version in here. Anyway, Beware My Love, also a great version. We have Soily, I forgot to mention Soily. This is a great version of Soily, a song that wasn't recorded for a studio record, but this version of Soily is even better because it's raw, I think. It also has, Wings Over America has medals and the whole 9 yards, right? The trumpets and trombones. So it's Paul McCartney's best live album, of course it is. Even though it's had some overdubs, which album hasn't? Which live album hasn't? And of course, I'm sorry to spoil the surprise. Of course, number 1, I'm even removing this from the ugly plastic I have here. I ought to change this. And I gotta quickly remove the Obi strip. If you can bear with me for a couple moments. Alright. Of course it's Band on the Run. Number 1 is Band on the Run. It's an instant classic. Even the B-sides like No Words and also Mamunia, I think they're really something. This is, you know, at the end of McCartney Legacy Volume 1, and I talk about this book quite often, this is the height of Paul. You know, this is the end of that whole Beatles breakup, plus being depressed, plus being a father and married to Linda and starting a new band from scratch. This is the height of that. This is the grand finale. And this LP has an incredible story, incredible history to me, because the Obi strip means that this is out of the Half Speed Master collection that Paul released in 2023, and I bought this record on the same day that I met Paul McCartney. So I did meet Paul. It was I have a video on it, so if you want to check it out. It was, of course, a once-in-a-lifetime experience. So this has incredible meaning to me. This specific pressing, right? This specific album in itself. That's it, guys. What do you think about it? Please let me know down here. I've talked so much. I'm exhausted. Of course, it's Band on the Run. What else, right? I'll see you next time. Thank you.